Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our meeting tonight for June 15th, 2021. We are delighted that you're here. A great crowd, a lot of good things we want to celebrate tonight, and we appreciate so much you being here to do that with us all together. At this time, I will note our roll call. All commissioners are present, along with the county manager, attorney, and our clerk. Let me ask you to take a look at your mobile devices. If you have cell phones, tablets, other things that are going to make noises tonight, please take care of those right now. Put them on silent. Yeah. Yeah, don't drop your walking stick. You'll take care of that. We would appreciate it. And let me remind you, if you come to the podium tonight to speak, please be sure that the microphone is on. A red light will be on the top of that microphone when it is on so that we can hear you and get a good recording of our meeting. We are delighted tonight to have Dr. Rex Shaver with the Pleasant View Baptist Church with us to bring our invocation. And Dr. Shaver, if you'll come, and immediately following his invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be led by our County Attorney, J.R. Simpson. So let's stand together, please.
Lord, we thank you for each of us, for giving us the breath of life, Lord. Help us to remember that each one of us has a finite number of breaths, to use them seriously and wisely. Lord, we also thank you for allowing us to live in a country where we can vote and select men and women to represent us. Lord, we pray that you bless this country. We pray that you bless this nation. We pray that you'll bless this world, Lord, and we pray for Burke County that you bless us here. Help us to live together well, Lord. Lord, we pray for these representatives. We thank you for their willingness to serve, Lord. We pray that you will bless that willingness. Lord, that you will help them to hear concerns and then to make wise decisions on how to allocate our resources. Guide and bless this process, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 on our agenda tonight is approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you've had that to review for several days. I'll entertain a motion at this time to approve the agenda. Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe that is all of us. Item 5, approval of minutes. We have several minutes to approve tonight. Minutes from May the 4th, 2021 pre-agenda meeting, May the 4th, 2021 recessed meeting, May the 25th recessed budget meeting, and May the 27th recessed budget meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve these meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we approve all four meeting minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That is all of us. We have a number of presentations tonight, and the first presentation comes from our county manager, recognition of employee for completion of School of Government's Municipal and County Administration course. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Lance. If you'll meet me up here, please.
I think he'll tell you there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we're very proud of him. And although it's a little unique this year, and that they didn't get to go down and meet in person and have the interaction with one another, there was still the opportunity to interact with people of various jobs in local city and county government, and it helps to lay a foundation for a brighter future. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And this was from the School of Government at Chapel Hill, wasn't it?
The very same.
Oh, it wasn't Duke.
No.
Lord, no.
Congratulations, Lance, and thank you for all you do every day for us, and we look forward to many years of service in the future. This brings us to item number 2, Board of Commissioners recognition tonight, and it's my pleasure to recognize Rebecca McLeod. Rebecca, where are you? In the corner. You don't belong in the corner. We are so delighted that we've had a chance to celebrate with Rebecca. Nice to have her husband with her tonight and other friends who've been able to join. I know many others have perhaps even come and gone at this point, but it is a special honor for me to recognize her tonight. And I want to ask Commissioner Carswell to present Rebecca with some service recognition. Commissioner Carswell serves on the Board of Health on behalf of this board. And so, Johnny, if you'll proceed there and make comments as you see fit. Johnny, step up toward that microphone.
He says, come to the mic.
Okay, say come to the mic. Okay. There's not many times that you get to stand in front of people and recognize a friend. And tonight I did. I get to recognize my friend. There's nothing that the Lord can do for people, I think, greater than letting them become servants. Servant to the public, servant to the family, servant to the Lord. And when this young lady, and I'll reach her back before she does, but when this young lady reaches up there, he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. She has served you for 34 years. 34 years. She, Rebecca worked nights, she worked days. She took care of me when I was sick, when I had COVID. My wife and I were extremely ill with COVID. And who was there every day? She was. She was right there for me. And she nursed me through that. So we have been very, very fortunate to have her as our health director. We've had a good team up at the health department. She stepped in when the pandemic started. We'd never experienced anything like that before. We didn't know what to do. We was kind of flying by the seat of our pants every once in a while. So Rebecca was there to be the leader that we needed. So on behalf of the people of Burke County and the board here, in recognition of 34 years of dedicated service to Burke County and its citizens, we'd like you to give us tonight to clap for your husband to hang up.
He does
Working
hang
for
up.
you now. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca McLeod.
Hey, Rebecca and Johnny, stay right there. I want to ask our Board of Health, I know a number of those folks are here, and the chairperson, Susan Bingham, come up and join Johnny and Rebecca at this time. Okay, well, staff, Health Department staff, you guys stand up and let's recognize you as well.
He has that deep voice. He sings with a joyful voice, the civil Lord.
And Rebecca, we'd love to hear any comments that you have for us tonight as well. I wish you would. I think the microphone would work a lot better.
I'm not known for doing things in the conventional way, so I just move it around.
There you go.
That way I can see y'all. First, I had to write notes, because if anybody knows me, I love to talk. And this is gonna be a long meeting anyway. Okay? You don't need to listen to me. So, first and foremost, I thank my Lord and Savior for allowing me to be here to serve for the years that I've been able to. Second, I want to thank Mac, my husband of 34 and a half years, because I love you. And he stood by me through thick and thin. He's made me dinner every night for the last 15 months. I come home to a cooked meal. If you've not been there, I wouldn't be able to achieve my dreams and goals. So thank you for standing by my side. And it has been my pleasure to serve the people here in Burke County for the last 3.5 decades. Oh, God. My lady who colors my hair, if you could see it. It's also been my pleasure to work with such an awesome staff. We've not had a lot of turnover in public health in all the years because we have dedicated people. You have dedicated people that work in this county who love what they do to serve you, the people. But we are getting older, so we are going to have retirements. But they are very dedicated. So I thank my colleagues for their hard work, especially for the last 15 months, because it's been pure THELL. Excuse me. But you're all rock stars. So keep up the great work. And the Board of Health, they may not be here because some of them have to work late, and Susan did step back out. But I do offer them thanks for being supportive of public health and myself for the last 10 years as health director. They've allowed us to grow by encouraging us to take leaps of faith into areas not traditionally known for public health. If you've paid attention over the last few years, poverty, mental health, substance use disorder, they're not places where you normally see public health. Thanks to my queen, the catalyst back there, you're going to hear from her later if you stick around, Lisa Moore, we have made great inroads. We still have a long way to go, but now public health is in the forefront. And y'all all know that because we come and tell you. We've also achieved the status as the only health department in North Carolina being nationally accredited. Everybody's state accredited, but we've maintained our national accreditation. But best of all, and it's a testament to all these people, we've been able to develop, cultivate, and maintain strong community relationships. And I'm blessed to know that Burke County is unique because of those relationships. And I pray that that will continue in the years to come. There's no reason why it shouldn't. And last but not least, thank you to county administration and to the commissioners. I see my other county administration people out there for supporting us all these years and allowing public health to be innovative. If you've not allowed us to think outside the box, cultivate relationships, write grants, heaven help us if we write grants, become FAB accredited, you would not have the caliber of staff that you have present today at your Burke County Health Department, even though you're losing a couple of us. And as a 34.5-year employee of Burke County, I say thank you to y'all. As a longtime employee, it's been noticed that you look out for us, your county employees. It may never feel like we say thank you, but I thank you. You've allowed us to protect and promote the health and well-being of the people of this county. Got that mission statement right, ladies? I drill that into the staff's heads. So, and thank you to the citizens of Burke County, because you've allowed us to provide you the best possible services, both clinically and environmentally, to protect your health and well-being over all these years. Not a lot of counties can say that. So in closing, thank you to everyone here in this room and who may be watching, including my family who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you. To my family for the love and support you've given me, and to the citizens of Burke County for trusting in public health to keep you educated so you could make the informed decisions regarding your health and well-being. Keep up the great work. To our awesome public health family, you will be missed, but you have a new day coming with a new leader who will further our cause even better than I have and that we all have. So thank you. And I will be quiet.
Thank you again, Rebecca, and we could spend a lot more time tonight recognizing Rebecca and all the things that she's done and her staff. And we, again, thank you on behalf of Burke County. Well, we have another celebration that we want to spend some time with tonight, and this brings us to recognition of Governor's Volunteer Service Award. This is going to be presented by Alicia Lorenzo Wilson with the J. Iverson Real Developmental Center, Director of Volunteer Service, and also Paige Pitts. So you guys come forward, and we'll hear you gladly.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for having us here tonight with this wonderful group of award winners. And I don't know who to look at, but I'm going to look at all of
I'm going to ask you to turn it
Can we
around.
do that?
Yeah, there's
That
a
would
lot
just
more
be-
out there.
I love that you did that.
That'll be much better. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. Well, good afternoon. We so appreciate having wonderful recognition here ahead of us and this wonderful recognition before us. These award winners are from the Governor's Volunteer Service Awards that are chosen from many of the service organizations here in Burke County. They get the opportunity to select the superlative, wonderful folks that give of their time and service to Burke County to make Burke County the county that it is. And Volunteer Burke is a organization of volunteer managers, and we're also have been deemed the county coordinators of the Governor's Volunteer Service Awards, and that's why we are a part of this wonderful award process. And we, of course, appreciate having this opportunity to recognize and present this year's Governor's Volunteer Service Award to these wonderful representatives of what they do. And it's been a little bit in coming because everything was a little bit delayed this year, but thank you for having us and giving us this opportunity to come, and we thank you so much. The Governor's Volunteer Service Awards honor the true spirit of volunteerism by recognizing individuals, groups, and businesses that make a significant contribution to their community through volunteer service. So it can be lots of different kinds of volunteer service, and you'll hear that as we go through this tonight. So we want to thank you, volunteers. That's what I want to say before I sit down and give Alicia the podium and say thank you for your service and thank you for your commitment to others. Thank you for making our community a better place. And what would we do without our volunteers? I don't know, because you are making a difference. And so at this time, I'd like to ask Alicia, another representative of Volunteer Burke, to come up, and she's going to introduce our 2021 Burke County Governor's Volunteer Service Award winners. And ask Scott Mulway, is he down here yet? There he is, to come, and also a few of our other representatives to come up and help present these wonderful awards. Thank you all so much.
I'm going to come over here so my back is not to you. You can see the award winners that way. As Paige said, I am Alicia Lorenzo Wilson, and we appreciate the county commissioners and meeting participants for sharing in these special presentations. I'd also like to introduce Mary Rudisell, Gretchen Lohman, and Stephanie Smith, also with Volunteer Burke, assisting in our awards presentations. I'd also like to say a special acknowledgement to Catherine Bailey from Catherine's Framing, who beautifully framed the certificates being presented to our award winners tonight. And a special thank you to Tammy Gerken for all the publicity and the beautiful articles in the News Herald for recognizing our volunteers. Our first award recipient this afternoon is Lily Prebor. J. Iverson Riddle's volunteer program participant Lily Prebor was nominated by Summer Nixon Snell. Lily, a first-time volunteer, regularly participated in televolunteering by writing letters and sending care packages to residents and staff during COVID restrictions. When the volunteer term concluded, Lily continued to write both the residents and the staff who looked forward to these letters of encouragement. Lily has gone over and beyond in her efforts to make a difference in the lives of others. Lily Prebor is surely deserving of the 2021 Governor's Service Award. Congratulations, Lily. Our second Governor's Service Award winner is Maureen Dewar. Maureen is a volunteer at the St. Charles COVID Food Relief Program and nominated by Terry Martino. Maureen's commitment to others, especially the Hispanic and largely the Guatemalan community, knows no boundaries. She helps the community get jobs, find homes, pay bills, do taxes, and acts as a translator when needed. When the COVID pandemic reached our community, Maureen began the COVID Relief Food Project. The project provided weekly food to families in need and delivered food to their doorsteps. When asked how long she would continue this program, she said, as long as there's a need. Felicidades, Senora Maureen. Thank you. Our third winner is Chastity Petite Rice. Chastity is a community volunteer nominated by Kevin Baxter. Kevin states that Chastity is a born servant leader and has served our community for many years. Her most recent priority is the provision of healthy meals to the most food insecure among us. In 2020, Chastity facilitated a donation of 35,000 pounds of food to support 15 different organizations in their food pantries, shelters, senior feeding programs in our region. She donated the use of packaging equipment and set up production facilities at 2 Burke County schools that assisted in providing 550,000 meals to our local children when schools closed due to COVID. She worked with local volunteers to package 25,000 meals to local organizations and distributed an additional 2,800 meals in honor of this volunteer service. Chastity is a dedicated service leader and is truly deserving of the 2021 Governor's Service Award. Our fourth Governor's Service Award winner is Dr. Jody Deacon. Dr. Deacon is a retired psychologist at J. Iverson Riddle and was nominated by me. When Jody started volunteering, he would walk around campus and provide words of encouragement to staff, visit with the residents, and make sure everyone was doing well. During this time, Jody also adopted 2 J. Iverson Riddle homes, and due to COVID on campus, volunteering had to stop. But that didn't stop Jody. He saw teleservice as a challenge and started learning how to bake different desserts to share with the staff. Some of the favorites were brownies and lemon pound cake. Staff say they have a high level of respect and appreciation for Jody and his joyful personality and genuine concern. Dr. Jody Deacon is deserving of the 2021 Governor's Service Award for his supportive staff and residents at J. Iverson Riddle Developmental Center. The fifth award winners in the group team category are Joe Kioski and Connie Berry. Joe and Connie are 2 exceptional volunteers for Burke Hospice and Palliative Care and were nominated by Mary Rudisell. These volunteers are actively involved in the Tuck In project. They make weekly phone calls to patients and caregivers to ensure that they're well prepared with everything they need for the coming week, tucked in for the weekend ahead. Despite not being able to report in person to the hospice campus, these 2 volunteers have not let the pandemic disrupt their dedication to this mission and have carried on with their calls. Both volunteers state that it's an honor to be working with these special patients. If we can bring a smile or help to those in need, we have done our part. Joe and Connie have a gift of helping, caring, and listening to hospice patients and families during this challenging time in their hospice journey. They are most appreciated and certainly deserving of this honorable recognition, the 2021 Governor's Team Service Award. At this time, I will ask Brownie Rochford, another Volunteer Burke member, to come and introduce our 2021 Governor's State Medallion winner.
John. The Governor's Medallion Award for Volunteer Service was implemented in 2006, and it was to recognize the top 20 to 25 volunteers in the state. And the medallion recipients are nominated at the county level, and they can only send in one nomination from a county. And our organization was one of the ones who we sent in, Mr. John Widener. And a statewide panel reviews and evaluates all of these nominations to determine the state award recipients. And this year there were only 22 medallion winners awarded in the state. And we're so excited because Burke County got one of those medallion winners, and our winner is Mr. John Widener. And we're really proud of that because he is a special person. Mr. Widener serves as a Disabled American Veterans Chapter number 43 adjutant. He's a veteran volunteer primarily, but anything that he needs, he is willing to help. So Mr. David Bergen, who nominated him, told us, he says, he is the biggest helper there is anywhere. Mr. Widener takes on many services in his DAV chapter and community. He has been awarded his newsletter. He publishes a newsletter and has been award-winning. He assists in monthly meetings with the commander. He assists all new veterans in claiming their veteran benefits and follows up on any denials or rebuttals. He holds their hand all the way through the process. He provides meals and holiday celebrations for the veterans, both those that are homebound and those that are able to come to the facility to celebrate. He is active in the Fleet Reserve and the American Legion of Veterans of Foreign Wars. Mr. Widener is also very active in ministry. He teaches a Bible study at the DAV. He transports parishioners to and from church services, and he works with the youth in his church. Mr. Widener is a permanently disabled veteran. However, I'm not sure when he sleeps, but he does not let anything stop him or slow him down. He exemplifies an outstanding volunteer and is worthy of the esteemed 2021 Governor's Medallion Award. Congratulations, Mr. Widener. Wow, that's nice.
On behalf of this board, we're also delighted to give each one of these winners one of our county walking sticks, and we hope you'll use that to get out and about and maybe check out some of our trails or some of the other things here in our county. And as Alicia and Paige has said, we just don't have any way to measure the value of all the volunteer work that these folks have done and all the volunteer work that happens here in our own county every day. And we often recognize that here at this meeting on a monthly basis, but this is a grand time to recognize all these volunteers and all the volunteers in our county. Again, thank you to all of you and all who helped with this process. right, thank you very much, and again, we appreciate all of these folks being here with us tonight. The next item on our agenda, item number 7, is scheduled public hearings. We have a number of public hearings tonight, and I hope we can maintain this same excitement level as we move into this next item on our agenda. First item on the agenda, public hearings agenda tonight comes from our county manager. It's the adoption of the fiscal year 21-22 budget and public hearing. And I'll recognize our county manager, Brian Steen, at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and audience. The recommended budget was presented to the commissioners a few weeks back. We've held 2 budget workshops. During those budget workshops, the board members have made suggestions for changes and amendments to the recommended budget. Those changes have been incorporated into the budget that is available for you to consider and approve this evening, as well as hold a public hearing on. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Just before I open the public hearing, I want to ask commissioners if they have any questions or comments they wish to make at this time before I open the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I have several. I'd like to address several things. I think all of you got my email that I had questions about or just wanted to make comment on about the increases of the budget. But the first thing I wanted to do, and this is where probably 50% of my questions come from, and studying and looking at a budget, you look at 3 things, and I think we could agree that we look for truth, and truth in a budget translates to the numbers, and are they accurate? And the next is a balance of the budget, and of all means, the third one is how fair is it? How fair is it to each department? How fair is it to the taxpayers who will be paying all the money that it takes to run the budget for Burke County? These things give me a little concern, and just I don't have the answers. I know that Margaret was busy today and did not get to respond to a couple of the things that I brought to your attention. But I showed you some net increases, and I didn't get a third way through the budget. I just didn't have the time. But just a couple of things. The COVID funds, if you haven't heard, is part of probably the biggest part of your budget increase this year. COVID funds was 17 million, I'll get it right, hold on. $17,575,650. But I did not find the expenditures for what we were going to do with that money, and I am waiting on that. Fire district funds, and basically as you go through this, fellow commissioners, you'll see that things that had great increase over the past 5 years got a note from me. And fire district funds 5 years ago was $3,163,776, and this year they're $4,548,000. It's a 5-year increase of a close of $1.4 million. Animal services 5 years ago was $306,293. 21-22, they're at $481,005. The sheriff kept his employees from that department when we made that change, which means about $200,000 is now under the sheriff's caddy. So when you add that to it, it begins to be a bigger number, and when you assess the value of it. Burke County Schools, 5 years ago, was $15,299,150. This year, it's 16,049,205, no increase. And the increase we had the last couple years came from the nurses. We took over the nurses. Now, to be straight and honest with you, the nurses were paid by different entities for a period of time. And, but when they quit paying, the county picked up that cost. And I think that the next category, which is school Article 39 and school Article 42, they have increased almost double in the past year. And that means people in Burke County are spending lots of money. And I think that we can look at this, and the school, with the extra dollars they're receiving, and that is your and my tax dollars that we spend in Burke County, Mr. Chairman, could easily pick up those school nurses a whole lot less than we as the county could pay that. EMS, 5 years ago, $4,819,137. This year, $6,648,335. That's a $425,000 increase over last year, but a $1.6 million increase in 5 years. Finance, 20% increase in 5 years was $504,296, now $605,680. Sheriff's Department obviously is a biggie. We did away with the joint jail. We're only 50% staffed, or approximately that. But it's up 50%. And by the time we get that new jail paid for and all the increased operating costs, we will spend $90,000 in taxes. That is just, and it's alarming that we are paying that kind of money. The flip side of that is that we need a jail. We had a jail. But at the same token, the increase in the cost is just, it was $10 million, approximately $10 million of what we agreed to begin with to build that jail. So it's just things I feel like are out of balance for our budget. Information technology, 5 years ago, $751,540. Today, $1,929,400, over 250% increase in 5 years. Now, I said in my opening statement, the fairness and the balance, and that's a lot of additional dollars for one department. I've got solid waste, in all three categories: revenue, expenditures, and operations. They're not too high over last year, but going back even 5 years, it's still, and I put that one in there kind of as a fairness article or item. We'll miss the county manager's office. Tax evaluation, 5 years ago, was $160,969. This year, it's $664,750. Permits and fees, the budget didn't go up, but $28,000. But I did want to get a separate list in each one of those permits and the impact that they've had over the past 5 years and how we're doing with that. Total budget for the year was $81,246,236 5 years ago. Today, they're $133,412,775. Lots of people would say that's out of hand. That's wild spending. At the same time, our population figures, how much of our population's figures gone up in that 5-year period? Anybody want to guess?
Are you asking percentage-wise?
Hmm?
Are you asking percentage-wise,
No,
or just the total number
numbers.
for the county?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're not taking comments from. Well, he did. We wasn't really looking for an
It
answer.
is, we've done a lot as a county, as county commissioners, to entertain and promote growth. Our growth in 5 years has only been 80 people, less than 100. Now, this is why you have to look at a budget in its balance and fairness. Our budget has gone up millions, and we're only serving 80 more people. So, in my mind, it's not a healthy budget for the taxpayers of Burke County. We do have some other information on here that I will not cover, that I have requested information on. But I do want to say that Burke County is a healthy county. It's been healthy at least most of the time I've been on the board, which will soon be 20 years. So, and we have a request, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want me to make that now or later, but we do have a request from the sheriff. Yeah. In free enterprise, if you can change an employee, improve an employee, or change a position, and it's more beneficial, it makes more money, it's wise to do that. And he has requested to do that with a lieutenant and guarantees no increase or no impact on the budget. And, Mr. Chairman, if it be in order, I'll make the motion, or I'll wait and make it later.
You have to have your public hearing first.
We'll wait till after public hearing for that motion.
I thought that would be best.
Other comments or questions or concerns? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just a couple of comments. All respect to Commissioner Taylor, he hadn't voted for a budget in 5 years. Means he hadn't voted for EMS stations, schools, pay increases for employees, the things that make this county run. So, I sit there and, like I said, listen to him weaponize the numbers and skew them. It's just not true. And so, I think if people want to read the budget, but let's be accurate on this. And so, just want to be clear, the things we do at the county, we want to reward our employees. Talking about the lieutenant position. We want to help the sheriff out. You're talking about animal services going up in cost. Well, we took it over from the sheriff. Obviously, we had to restaff it. We have to be responsible adults. We have to build and invest in infrastructure. A lot of the things that people don't want to talk about, whether it's water, sewer, equipment at the dump, whatever you want to say, we have to look at that and we have to make a decision. And we have to promote Burke County and make sure it's going forward. And the only way to be progressive is your budget's going to go up somewhat. Not as much as he says. But, if we all voted against the budget the last 5 years, you'd have none of the services you have. The employees wouldn't have had a raise in 5 years. You know, we try to take care of people. And we want to promote Burke County and make it a better place for everyone. And so, you know, like I said, I sit here every year and listen to the same thing. And I just thought it was time to give a little clarity about how I feel when it comes to the budget. Some of the other things, IT technology, fairly important. You know, if we don't keep up with IT, you know, we can have somebody come in and hijack our system. I mean, simple things like that. Yeah, it costs more, but we're doing it to protect and in the long run, save money for the citizens of Burke County. So I would encourage all of you to look at the budget on your own, read numbers. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones for 20 years. I do budgets at the college. I do budgets at TDA. I do budgets here. I think I'm pretty good at a budget. So numbers don't lie. So I would go in there and take a look at those numbers yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Commissioner Taylor, and form your own judgment. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions at this time from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is the most balanced budget since I've been on this board that I've looked at yet. It's fair. It's fair to the people. Some of the numbers that were being presented, I don't agree with. The numbers that are in that budget, I do agree with. They're there. They've been vetted by this board on several meetings. It's been vetted by the administrative staff that we have here. I'm very proud of the fact that the school didn't even ask for a penny this year. It's because we supported them over the years and we brought them back where they needed to be. As a retired state employee, when I came to work here, I can say these county employees were woefully underpaid. It was bad. And we got county employees in here shaking their head, yeah. It was bad. So we took care of the people here. But we don't have the turnover like we had before. You're going to have turnover, but we don't have it like we had before. The percentages are not there. People are willing to work here now because the boards ahead of us and this board here has provided for these people. They give them a decent living wage, and they've decided to stay here with us. And the hires that we have made, or that Brian has made, have been excellent. They're great hires in the department heads that we have here. We've listened to everybody that's come up to that podium, or I have, and the rest of these folks have for the last 10 years. And we have got this county now to where we can start saving money, which we're saving in our savings account. We're being able to purchase equipment that we've not been able to purchase before. We talk about water and sewer. Water and sewer never even broke even. Water and sewer cost us money. We took care of it for the people in this county for a long, long time. If you go out, we all understand numbers. You go out and buy something nowadays, it's not like it was before. I can't help it the economy's like it is right now. I don't like paying $2.79 for gas. And I think I'm going to be paying more before it's over with. So we have to be visionaries. We have to look into the future, and we have to take care of what's ahead of us. We have to prepare. It's just like when the pandemic hit. We actually were in good enough shape that we survived the pandemic because we had good financial responsibility. We had good budgets. We had people working those budgets, and we were able to get through a pandemic without too much trouble. We certainly did. And we don't know, the money that's been set aside that's going to come from the federal government to us, we haven't even been told yet how we can spend it. It's there, but they won't tell us how we can spend it. I'm sorry. When they tell us, then we can spend it. But they're going to put the parameters on it. It's just like the opioid lawsuit that we're getting ready to settle. We've been in an opioid lawsuit for a number of years. We're going to get a good amount of money to help these people, the 6 families that had children die this year that they had to bury. We're going to be able to help. We're going to be able to help. That's what we do up here. It's just like I said about Rebecca being a servant. You're called to be a servant. By God, be a servant.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll respond to that. I'm glad that they recognize numbers don't lie. These numbers don't lie either. And it's obvious that we have allowed the some of the items get out of hand, out of cost. And the first thing we gotta do is count the cost up front. That's very scriptural. If you don't count the cost, you won't have money to finish it. There are things that the increase, in my estimation, increased too much. They got out of hand, and taxpayers end up, if we make a mistake budget-wise, our employees don't pay for it. This board doesn't pay for it. Who pays for it? Taxpayers. And to not recognize when you're viewing a budget where these things are overhanded and do need to be tucked in is a mistake. And it always will be a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Davis?
Mr. Chairman, I think one thing that we need to address that in the budget, but we sure got to think in the future. And I think we've all agreed that next year we're going to try to work, but our physical plants haven't had any work on them for a long time. And if we spend any money extra, we got to start taking care of our physical plants. I mean, I was hoping we could do a little more this year, but we really got to address that this year. We really got to sit down and figure out what it's going to take to get our plant back in order, because otherwise they're just going to deteriorate, and that's not right either. That's not being good stewards of county property.
Thank you, Mr. Abel.
I want to, Mr. Chairman, just say on behalf of Western Piedmont Community College, we made a $1 million commitment to a trades bill. We have a shortage, plumbers, electricians, HVAC techs, you name it. And we're stepping up to the plate, joining with our partners at the college to answer that. That's one of the things in the budget that gets overlooked. So I did want to make that clear. The second point is this wild tax spending. Brian, can you be clear on this? Did we raise the tax rate this year in this budget?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, just to note that we raised a lot of items this year on fees, permits, water, sewer, waste program. All our citizens will enjoy a higher rate this year.
Other comments? All right, seeing here no further comments from the commissioners, at this time I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Do we have anybody here tonight to speak on the budget matter?
I'd like to ask a couple questions, if I may.
If you would come to the podium, please. Please state your name, if you don't mind, and address.
My name is Timothy Green. I live at 6181 North Shore Drive in Lake James or Nebo. Mr. Taylor, what exactly can you attribute the massive increase in your general budget to? I know that everything's more expensive now, and that's been 5 years, but that first figure that you mentioned is such a major increase. Where did those increases come in the first part?
I'm not sure that's an eminent question, but I may have the answer.
Well, it's roundabout. What
If you're
generally?
comfortable, Mr. Taylor, you can feel free, or I'll be happy to have our finance officer try to answer the question if you'd prefer.
Well, what will be a big part of your budget for the next 18 years is we agreed to build a jail at $15.6 million. We never have got a final number of what it costs, but I know it's over 24 and it's approaching 25.
Do we currently still take prisoners to Rutherford County? Or have we in the past taken them to house them in Rutherford County for jail?
No, most counties have quit arresting people, so you don't, it's not even hateful.
Got a point.
No, it would have played out wonderfully if we'd have just held our tongue, wouldn't it?
Well, I guess that's-
But,
When we start defunding police, that's gonna happen, but we know we have to fund the police because that is our security.
and a lot of things, when we did the, water package fees, your charge was $15, if I remember correctly. $15 a month, and you got the first, that included your first 1,000 gallons of water. Now it's
Correct.
$25, and it's, you charge for gallon one. You charge,
So they did
I
go up
believe
on the
it's
15
$4
per connection.
per 1,000 gallon.
Let me ask you about the emergency management part of this. Since you say we've only up 81 citizens, is that correct?
Say that
In
again.
your district, you're only up 81?
In this district, we only, in Burke County, I'm not sure I understood.
You said there was up 81 citizens, I think, or 81 participants.
80 citizens over, we have grown 80 citizens over the last 5 years.
Okay, why then is the EMS budget grown so much? I know that it's
We
more
built
expensive,
we built two new, emergency service buildings. We staffed them.
but is that in this budget, or has that already been allotted for?
No, that's in this budget.
That's in this budget?
Yeah.
So what we've already done is within this budget, those expenditures are in this budget. What you've already built, the building for the EMS is already in that budget.
Yes.
So we now have more ambulances available for other parts of the county, which are like
The only thing I
Nepo
did-
or Hildebran or.
The only thing I did not see in this budget was the fire district's funds. It's $44,200,000,
Which is the fire district.
fire departments.
Fire-
Lo-
Okay, well, that answered my question, because I was curious why the EMS had grown so much if we've only had 81 people join us. So I know that's been a real issue.
I
But anyway,
think
well,
I think our goal was to try to get an ambulance response time to most of the citizens in 7 minutes and no less than 10.
and in some cases 35 and 40. Well, I'd just like to thank all y'all for all the work you've done into it, and I want to ask one question to all the board members. Do you have anybody countywide that looks about cutting the budget, cutting expenses, that actually looks to see if there's somewhere you can cut? Just quick, for instance, I used AT&T, AT&T for phone service in our business. It cost me $900 a month. I cut that to using voice over IP, and now spend 110. So that's quite a reduction. And just looking at things like the IT stuff, some of the IT stuff is a lot less expensive than it used to be. Some of it is more expensive. But with the hacking going on from all around the world, you have to protect us, all of us. Because if you get hacked and our money gets gone, then it's all of us. It's not just the board, it's all the citizens. So I understand that. But there needs to be somebody looking at cutting, being able to cut 5% here or 10% there. And I don't know if we have an employee or someone that does that. Is that?
I'll take a stab at that, and Mr. Manager, you can feel free. That is the responsibility of each of our department heads to review those expenses. Our finance officer also deals with that. Her department looks at those services, utilities, IT, every vendor, every service that we purchase is reviewed on a regular basis for those kinds of things. And Mr. Manager, I'll be happy for you to respond to that as well.
Well, you do, but you also have, in different years, things coming to end of life for service. You also have to look at the salaries of employees. We do about a third of the different job classifications every year. So every 3 years, we go through the entire cycle to see how we stack up against surrounding counties. And we found, I think it was about a 15% increase for EMS workers because they were that far off the market value. and most of ours are paramedics. Our EMS has, for the past 3 years, won a gold award for their service and cardiac patients. Again, the EMS stations, we've built 2 more to cut the time in half. The one down on Miller Springs Road, Jason, who is now our EMS director, told us at the dedication meeting that back in the days when he was on the ambulance, it took 30 minutes with a light and siren to get down to South Mountain, and we were cutting that at least in half. And if you're having a stroke or a cardiac event, that's big.
Well, I appreciate you paying the EMS workers, because if I have a heart attack, I want them to come, so. Thank you for your time, appreciate all the hard work you do, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on the budget tonight? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at this time and take back up this matter that Maynard mentioned. And Commissioner Taylor, I'll try to define, I think I got the same information from the sheriff that you're referring to. And I think the request is, gentlemen, for us to, if you recall, the last 6 months or so, the sheriff had asked for authority to use a lieutenant position based on lapsed salary in this budget, which that was allowed on a temporary basis up until the end of the budget year. So the request comes now that he be allowed to basically continue that same process in light of this budget has included 16 positions, and the odds that we would fill those 16 new positions at the jail within the 12 months is, though we are working hard to do that, it's highly unlikely that we'll get them all filled, and at least if we do, it'll be toward the middle or the end of the budget. So that would mean that some of those funds for those 16 officers will not be spent. And so his ask is that he be allowed to continue the use of this lieutenant in the jail under those same conditions, not adding a position, but simply using funds from positions that are already in the budget for the coming year. Sheriff, did I get that correct?
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right. So that is the request, and I'll take that to Mr. Taylor as what you intended to move. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So hearing that, before we vote on the budget as a whole, I'll hear this item just as we heard other items during our budget meetings previously to this one. If you're in favor of adding this stipulation to the budget in that form, please signify by the uplifted hand. And opposed?
Mr. Chairman, we didn't put a term on that. I'm assuming that's just for the
Just for this budget year? Yes.
2021, 22 year.
Yes. All right, Madam Clerk, that'll be 4-1. Okay, so Brian and Margaret, you'll make that change to the budget. So with that change, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to accept the budget with that change.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the fiscal year 21-22 budget ordinance number 2021-12 as presented, to approve a memorandum of agreement between Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for the fiscal year 21-22, and to authorize the county manager to execute contracts with all nonprofit agencies that receive funding in the fiscal year 21-22 budget in accordance with North Carolina General Statutes 153A 449 and North Carolina General Statute 159-40.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Those opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I will vote no, not because I don't approve that 98% of the budget, but this is the third year in a row I've requested information and have yet to get the information I requested, and we're really not supposed to vote until the chairman makes sure all commissioners get the questions answered. So I will vote no.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Madam Clerk, that'll be 4 to
Yeah.
1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the motion that was made was to accept the budget as presented, and it needs to be to accept the budget as presented with the amendment concerning the sheriff's use of funds.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion to accept that motion that we did for the lieutenant and as part of the presentation in the budget time.
Thank you. As for clarity, another vote, please. Those in favor of the budget as presented with the amendment? Let's go. Those opposed? 4 to 1, Madam Clerk. All right. This brings us to item number 2 in public hearings. Item number 2 is ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Animal Ordinance, Burke County Code of Ordinance and Public Hearing. I'll present that item. I would remind you, gentlemen, that within the last month or so, we made some revisions to our animal ordinances, and as we were working through those discussions, we felt it was time to make some changes in the board itself, the Animal Advisory Board, and the recommendation has been to add a at-large animal owner seat to the Animal Advisory Board, replacing seat number 6, which was an animal rescue agency or foster seat, and also to increase the membership from 7 to 8 and add a at-large breeder. I'm sorry, that was the at-large breeder that would replace one of the animal rescues, and then add a seat for a large animal owner. So, gentlemen, I'll entertain questions this time if there are any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I know we've got a schedule of who fills those positions, but I did not have time to look it up. Madam Clerk, could you tell us who so far is on that committee?
Well, give me just 1 second. Let me pull up my roster. I know seat 6, the one that's being changed to an at-large breeder, belongs to Gwen Stevens. And there's no one in the proposed seat 8. Linda Chakowski is the veterinarian. Amy Burnett is the Board of Health member. I believe Debbie Hawkins, the chair, is an at-large pet owner. The law enforcement officer is Jeff Robinson. Thank you. Sorry, I had a senior moment. We've got Megan Bradley. I believe she might be representing one of the 501c3 rescue or foster agencies. And then we have Gary McClure, who is in an at-large seat, an at-large pet owner seat. Did I get everybody?
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let me also clarify that this change also would clarify that it would allow the Animal Services Director to vote in the event of a tie vote, because this would have 8 members on the board, so that would allow the Animal Services Director to vote in the event of a tie. The Animal Services Director is not slated as a member of the advisory board. Right. All right. If you know the questions, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anyone here tonight to speak to this particular item?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple people who have signed up to speak.
Okay.
Ms. Gwen Stevens.
I'm Gwen Stevens, 211 Hilltop Street, Rutherford College. I'm also Vice Chair of the Animal Advisory Board. You put a lot of confidence in us, and we've tried to accommodate that. But I do want to make something clear tonight that I think may not have been stated or you don't have knowledge of. The removal of the 501c3 rescue seat and replacing it with a breeder seat. So I understand the intent behind adding these seats was to provide additional expertise in what is best practice. But there's been discussion through this process to even the playing field, and that should not be considered. I'm going to leave my notes alone here. Forget it. I'm going to talk to you from my heart. When this board, I was part of a group that helped to write the beginnings of the Animal Advisory Board. The reason you have 2 rescue seats is because rescues come in 2 flavors. You got foster-based rescue and you've got shelter-based rescue. And each brings their own expertise. They bring their own educational piece with them. And we as the board rely heavily on shelter-based and foster-based information. And it varies because what goes on with foster-based is very different from shelter. Shelter responds to Department of Agriculture. Foster does individuals. So it's real important. We do have right now, I represent Rusty's Legacy as a shelter. And I believe Megan Bradley Krotz represents the foster. That's why we have 2 501c3s. In addition to that, the 501c3s have been extremely instrumental in helping with spay, neutering, vet bills, so much more. So I'm saying to you today, just simply look at it for what it is. We're not even in any kind of playing field. And I believe that comment had been made earlier, but we're not. We're working from 2 different perspectives, just like you're putting a breeder on, and I believe we need a breeder on that board. So wholeheartedly, I support that. I believe we need a large owner. Wholeheartedly, I support that because we don't have a large animal owner on our board, and so I think we really do need that. But at the same time, it would be like taking one of the other entities away from the board. And this has come together to, for us to be able to look at things. When we sit down to write ordinances and to look at things from a true perspective, not just how many you have on a board, not just how many of one thing you have, rescues, or whether you have somebody else as a pet owner or what. But this is because we can serve not only our animals, but we can serve our community better. And the way we do that is keeping the community safe and trying to take care of our animals and keeping the costs down in the county. And I don't know, but I think Windhood may have already spoken to that in my absence last month. But I really wish that you would reconsider that. That's really important. No matter who sits in that seat, I'll be coming off this month. But whoever, if that is allowed to do, that it should be somebody from a shelter rescue, because we already have one for the foster. So it's not to even the playing field. It's trying to get everybody on there that can make it the best for the entire group and advisory board. To have one of the best advisory boards, I want to tell you this, and I promise to be quiet. And I'm going to brag here, and I'm going to say it with as much confidence as Johnny says what he just did a while ago. We have, and I want you to hear me, we have one of the very best advisory boards that has ever been, not only in our county, but around, because I've done my research. I know what's out there. And to lose this, I don't understand it. We'll go backwards. So I'm just, imploring you to really look at this before you take this thing to vote. We'll be glad to supply more information, but that's what we're doing. It's not about the breeders. It's not about the animals, the large animal owner. It's not about that. It's about taking care of all of them, which includes breeders and large animal owners as well. But I realize that we don't want to magnify the board so big, but at the same time, we're getting the players that need to be playing. More poker players you got at the table, more money there is in the stakes. So let's try to keep this in mind, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve on that animal board the way you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Ms. Gwen Hood?
Good evening. My name is Gwen Hood. I am a Burke County resident, and I represent the Burke County Animal Welfare Alliance. First, let me state that I commend the Animal Advisory Board and our commissioners for adding members to the Animal Advisory Board. My concern is that one of the 501c3 rescue organization seats is being replaced with one of the new members. The rescues are assets not only to the county shelter, to our taxpayers, but also to the community as a whole. Rescues help promote education. They assist with vet care, food assistance to families in the community. They also, which in turn helps these families retain and keep their pets, which is one less pet animal that has to go to the shelter. So all these measures help save the county and the taxpayers a lot of money. Rescues also help reduce pet population, overpopulation, and unwanted litters. So the two seats that are on there were from the inception of the Animal Advisory Board for a very good reason. The 501c3s, they're the ones that are out there, boots on the ground, so to speak, in the community. So they really see what's going on. They see the needs that's happening in the community regarding animals. And so they bring a lot of very proactive, good solutions, good advice back to the Animal Advisory Board. So I would ask you, while you are adding to the board, which is a great thing, if you would please reconsider to keep the two rescue seats on there, because I think they are critical to the success of the Animal Advisory Board. I also believe that the members that you're bringing on, it would be a good thing for them to have requirements of some kind, because every member that serves on the Animal Advisory Board does have some form of requirement. So it should be fair. Everybody should have some requirement. And the requirements are going to be different because each person that serves on that board serves in kind of a different capacity. So the requirements would obviously have to be a little bit different, but they should have requirements to serve on that board. We've come a long way toward animal welfare in our county. I'm so proud of our county. I'm so proud of our commissioners. I'm proud of the continued proactive and meaningful decisions that are made. I would like to ask one thing. This may be, it's a little off subject here, and it does seem to be a little bit of a step backwards, a slight step backwards. But the Alliance wanted to know, you were allowing an animal to come to the board meetings, at least the once a month, for a very short, like a little meet and greet. It was a great public relations, not only for animal services, but also for the commissioners. And the times I've been here when animal was presented, it always caused a smile in the room and got everybody kind of at ease and a good place to start the meeting. People really enjoyed that. People that watch it, they're not just here, but actually watch that. Lots of comments we were hearing how commendable that was. And it really does help promote adoptions. So I'm concerned, why has that stopped? I haven't been able to get an answer why that has stopped. I don't know if you can give an answer today or if you can get back with me, but the Alliance would really like to know why there is not an animal coming at the meetings anymore. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wade.
Can I answer the question? I think it stopped mostly because of COVID, but I did want you, before leaving, to know that all of us get your report in our minutes package under the reports. And I noticed in your report this week that 50% of the people, of the adoptions are out of state, which I found rather amusing. But evidently that is a very good thing, that 50% of the adoptions that we're doing in Burke County are ending up out of state. So, but I wanted you to know that we haven't had a live animal, we haven't had reports, but we do still, the clerk, make sure we get that report every month.
Will you consider then, since it was the COVID situation, we consider an animal coming back, because that truly does go a long way? And you're talking from the shelter point of view. Animals that are getting adopted through the rescues stay more local.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so can y'all reconsider that?
I'll respond to that offline to you,
Okay.
Gwen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else to speak to this matter? And let me ask you, please understand that these are public comments on the issue. We don't really intend to get into dialogue back and
Well,
forth. So
This is
please,
Timothy
let's
Green
try to-
again from 6181 North Shore Drive. I didn't sign up because I wasn't aware that this was going to be up tonight. My wife and I have been in the veterinary business for 25 years, and I've built the New Leash on Life program at the Spindale Correctional Facility, specifically for helping the animals at the pound and the ones that were abandoned. Is it my understanding that you will only have one 501c3 and that will not affect the animals at the pound? Because the lady that spoke first was absolutely correct. You need somebody to speak for those animals at the pound. If you don't, a lot of those animals, you're right, they go up north. Those people are begging for animals. But so many are put to sleep, injected and took to the dump and buried at the dump. That's the hard facts of it. But I would just like to say that I agree with her 100% in putting two 501c3s, one for the pound and one for the fosters. Fosters do a great job. We've got many foster families and different rescue groups. But the people at the pound have a problem if they don't have somebody to speak for those animals. So I would like to see that amended. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just point out on the current makeup of the board there, you can see there that those two seats were not defined. They were just 501c3 animal rescue agency seats, so they were not defined previously as being leaning one way or the other. I think what I heard the comment, so I won't go any further with that right now. But any other comment on this matter? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Let me just say, gentlemen, I think I want to say we've heard the comments tonight and appreciate those, and we'll certainly take those into consideration. However, I don't think it's appropriate for us to change what's been publicly noticed and going forward. Am I correct in that, Mr. Attorney?
Well, that's the purpose of the public hearing. If you feel any desire to change, then you're able to do that.
So even though we've stated what we expect to do, we would have the leeway to make a change to that, you're saying tonight?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'll just make a comment here and then open the floor for any other concerns. The reason you'll recall that we felt necessary was based on public comment at our last meeting. We felt necessary to make these changes. Also, remember, we've got another action to take. We tabled one or two or maybe three other items that we still have to act on this ordinance. And so I think I would be comfortable moving forward with the move tonight as we have it, and then if we choose and wish to add another seat, do that when we come back with the rest of this ordinance at that time. But I'll be glad to entertain the other questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just, I agree with your assessment that I would want time to think, evaluate, and before I did any addition or change to that motion. So I would agree that if we want to change it, we have the right to change it later.
Other comments on this matter before we vote? All right, here now, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-11 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvey. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Thank you. This brings us to item number 3, Community Development Zoning Text Amendments, ZTA 2021-01 in public hearing. This will be presented by Shane Prisby, our interim planning director. Good evening, Shane. Gentlemen, just before I open the public hearing, any question or comments on this item? Hearing and seeing none, Shane, we'll hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Community Development Department has been working to update the county zoning ordinance into a new, user-friendly document that clarifies zoning regulations, reflects current use trends and development practices, and conforms to new statewide unified zoning laws. The department assembled a committee of community stakeholders to help guide the process, and this committee met monthly for over a year and took time out of their busy lives to review each article. I would like to thank the members of the committee for their service to the county on this project. The committee is Commissioner Johnny Carswell, Richard Evie, Damon Pollard, Greg Hoff, Sarah Black Moses, Hope Hopkins, Britt Page, Jeremy Perbrick, Doris Smith, Charles Avery Jr., and Edith Stitt. I also want to recognize the community development staff members Jennifer Forney, Peter Minter, and Bradley Kirkley, who put in countless hours of work to create the document before you. I am pleased to present you the new zoning ordinance for your consideration and welcome any questions you may have. While preparing for this meeting, we noticed that the title of the ordinance for the proposed zoning text amendment has a typo, and the word map should be replaced with the word ordinance. I have spoken with Madam Clerk about it, and she is aware of the typo. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I think I asked all my questions at the great end.
All right. All right. Shane, there are a number of these. Is there, and just for clarity, is there a way that you might be able to just summarize what this particular section is about?
So for this section, what we did was we've looked at our zoning ordinance to address inconsistencies or areas and just make it an overall more user-friendly document. Move away from a strictly text-based ordinance to one that has pictures that can clearly show what the intent of the document is, what is allowed, what is not allowed, and be much more responsive to the citizenry than our existing document. With that, we looked at ways to simplify different aspects of the ordinance and bring it into compliance with the new NCGS 160D laws, which unified the existing zoning laws for the state. So that happened in conjunction, and together with the committee, our staff put together this document, which we're really proud of and feel that it is a better document for the county that reflects what's going on, makes it easier for the citizens to live their lives, understand what they can and can't do on their properties, and something that we're really proud of and very happy to present to you all.
All right, thank you, Shane. I appreciate that clarity. Perhaps that will help going forward. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anybody here to speak to this particular matter tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I have several cards.
Okay.
Is there a Jim Ribble in the audience? Okay. I guess he changed his mind. Deidre Side? I can't. Steen? Steen. Sorry, I can't read it.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Burke County Commissioners. I am Dorinda Steen, better known as Rindy to a number of people. My husband John and I are registered voters and permanent residents of Burke County, residing at 6201 North Shore Drive for now 20 years. Thanks to Bradley Kirkley, Jennifer Fournier, Peter Minter for your hard work, and also thank you to the committee. It is a much clearer zoning ordinance and addresses several issues such as short-term rentals that were ambiguous at best in the current ordinances. I am here specifically to support the specific provisions of the ordinance that address short-term rentals. And there are a number of people from my neighborhood and other neighborhoods who are also here in support of that. Okay. I'm particularly also in support of the sections of the ordinance that address the short-term rentals in the River Lake overlay. Specifically, the proposed ordinance would require permits now for short-term rentals and would set forth regulations governing short-term rentals, including maximum overnight occupancy of only 2 persons per bedroom. Currently, all but one of the short-term rentals in our area advertise for 25 to 100% more than the bedrooms that would be permitted. And that's important in the Lake Overlay District as we have fragile septic systems. It will require designated local responsible party to resolve issues. It would set parking limits and allow no on-street parking. It would prohibit noise, unreasonable noise. It would require trash and recyclable disposal and no advertising signs. And very, very important, Burke County had been missing some of their taxes. It sets forth and requires collection of all appropriate taxes and remittances that need to be made on these type of businesses to the state and Burke County. Additionally, it sets forth a number of safety requirements for protection of occupants, as well as Burke County potentially being sued. And it also says no events can be hosted. Furthermore, it sets forth provision for enforcement and penalties included. On behalf of the majority of my neighborhood, I urge you, the county commissioners, to approve the ordinances specifically that now include these short-term rental provisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Steen.
John Van Ripper.
John Van Riper, 6505 South Shore Drive in the Holiday Shores area. This is going to be our house is going to be one of the houses that's going to come under these new short-term rental zoning changes. We've always paid all the taxes on it. We've always tried to be as proactive as possible with anyone that rents our house. My first trip out to this area was in 2014 to help fight fires. I worked for the Forest Service. Again, in 2016, got to like the area a whole lot more. We found we could buy a house, but in order to do that, we'd have to be able to rent it for part of the year, share it with other people. We try to be very careful and very selective with the people we rent it to. I've been a fireman my entire adult life, served in the military, and I have not been in a neighborhood that has become as openly hostile as the Southern Shores development. The rental houses have been there far longer than some of the newer houses that are in the neighborhood that have an issue with a short-term rental. I don't see it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lauren Van Ripper.
Lauren Van Riper, 6505 South Shore Drive. I live in the Holiday Shores neighborhood, part-time. I want to acknowledge the hard work and effort that has been put forth the zoning law amendments, but as one of the zoning officials told me when I asked about public comments tonight, no, it's a done deal. It's a closed matter. It's not going to make a difference. I hope they're wrong, and I hope this will make a difference to table the STR portion of these zoning amendments. I do agree that there needs to be regulation of short-term rentals, but it needs to be balanced and fair in its application. I am here to speak on behalf of the Burke County vacation rental owners who rent their homes but haven't been given a fair chance to be heard, at least more than the 6 minutes we've been given. These STR-specific zoning articles have been rushed to meet the state mandate, which are due next month. They appeared May 3rd, public comments were May 6th, planning board May 27th, revised ones were released that morning, and it passed. Now they sit before you in less than 42 days. They are, in my humble opinion, riddled with inconsistencies and errors, specifically harshly punitive to owners specifically in the Holiday Shores neighborhood. There is only about 2 to 3 neighborhoods that have short-term rentals that are allowed by HOAs or POAs or covenants. So with roughly 175 rentals in all of Burke County and over $750,000 in sales and use tax receipts in 2019, it's the latest numbers I could get, even the tourism board didn't know that Burke County was including STR in zoning. That has a sizable impact to the county and tourism bottom lines. The home I purchased on Holiday Shores 4 years ago was for sale for 5 years. It has been a rental and a short-term rental for over 25 years, longer than most of the full-time residents in the neighborhood. It isn't new. A handful of people pushing for changes that affects 20 to 30 homes in a county of 90,000 could have been handled between neighbors, but they have chosen otherwise, which is very disappointing to me, and despite my constant outreach with no results. These changes have already ratcheted up a very hostile neighborhood into a pseudo-police state. I have many in the group seated here have driven by or check in on my dead-end located home several times a week. I have been reported to the zoning board 3 times in 4 years. All reports were found to be baseless. The latest check-in was by Mr. Stein today at 12:57. He doesn't live anywhere near my house, but he drives by 3 to 4 times a week. As I only have 3 minutes, I cannot begin to go through the points, but for some of the new rules, to find a person to be within 25 miles of an area with 150 miles of shoreline and to be available 24 hours a day is just mind-boggling to me. With the new platform for a very vocal and intense group, I see it will only spiral quickly out of control and at the expense of all involved in livelihoods. With these new enacted laws, my husband and I and our 4 children will be at occupancy in our own home. We will not be allowed to have family over that live in the area to celebrate a birthday. It would be against the zoning laws. In my view, this is not in the spirit of right to use my home and property, and as your agenda says, ZTA 2021-01 is reasonable and in the public interest, but all of the public, not just a handful. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you.
Otis Wilson.
Thank you for the opportunity this evening to speak to you. Chairman Britton, Commissioners, Mr. Steen, and Mr. Simpson. I have been in Burke County for over 30 years, and I think crossed paths with most of you one way or another in that period of time. And I'm pleased to be a resident of Burke County, and Burke County is now home for Linda, my wife, and I. We live in Holiday Shores. My address is 2231 North Point Street. Some of the concern with renters, I have mentioned to you before. About 3 years ago, I appeared before you and outlined some of the concerns and met with your planning office and your board of adjustment at different times to just register some of the concerns. Some of the concerns that we have, and they may not apply to the Van Riper House, but they do apply to some renters. Remittances to the state and to the county were not taking place. We checked, and there was no record of remittances from some of the homes that were being rented. Parking issues, and I've experienced that, and others in our neighborhood have with large gatherings that have come together. The use of short-term rentals where renters have had large groups in. Excessive noise, sometimes the disrespect of other people's property or of the norms in the neighborhood. The small size of the properties for some of the rental properties, and excessive number of renters often staying in a home with an aging septic system that cannot manage that, especially when a family, as Ms. Van Riper just mentioned, has children, and then they invite other members of the family in. That can put stress on septic systems that are very close to the lake. We have met with your planning staff, and I have to commend your staff. Bradley Kirkley, Jennifer Forney, and Pete Mentor. You have very patient staff and a staff that are very good listeners. And I think they've done a commendable job bringing before you an ordinance that affects our issues of short-term rentals in the Holiday Shores area and serves Burke County well. So I would like to commend to you tonight passage and approval of this ordinance as presented, and to thank the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cliff Bechtel.
I'm going to go by my notes, I hope. My name is Cliff Bechtel. I reside at 1621 Linville Point. I'm a registered voter and a permanent resident of Burke County for about 25 years now. And I would like to commend the Burke County employees who worked on revising the county's R1 regulations, because I looked at them and it looked like a monumental task, and I think they did an excellent job. Very good. The old regulations were becoming obsolete, especially with regard to the short-term rental rules, which were causing much confusion and dissent among the neighbors, as everybody knows. With the new regulations and overlay map, Burke County will be in a much improved position to regulate short-term rentals, still allowing short-term rentals, and single-family housing, while allowing homeowners a lot more control over their property and neighborhoods. I didn't know much about R1 rentals until I heard about a house in my neighborhood, which was advertised for rent for 14 occupants. It only has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and I've been in that house. I knew the previous owners of it. That would be a clear violation under the new R1 regulations, which I am in favor of, by the way. And I chose to buy property and live at Lake James because it is Lake James, not Myrtle Beach. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Tim Green.
Tim Green, 6181 North Shore Drive. I just want to say thank you to all the time that you guys put in. And I don't know if you're aware how much your staff has put into these regulations and these ordinances. Nobody likes to be regulated, including any of us. But there comes a time that you have to. The lady that was up here before, Ms. Van Riper, said that people drive by her house, and this is true. Everybody drives by everybody's house on Holiday Shores because we have community watch and we do drive around. It's for everybody's good. But these regulations are not about Holiday Shores in itself. They're about the county-wide. And everybody in this county has a right to live in their home. And when they have their home, when you go home, you're home. And all we're trying to do with these regulations is have some kind of security that when you're home, you have that privacy of your home. So thank you, all the staff and all the work you guys have put into it. I do approve of these new regulations. I know it was a lot of work because I talked to a lot of the guys. We attended a lot of the meetings and just approve of the good job you're doing. Thank you, each and every one of you.
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have anybody else tonight to speak to this matter? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at this time.
2021-05,
Yes.
extending the existing Burke County zoning ordinance in its entirety and adopting the new Burke County zoning ordinance in its entirety in reference to zoning text amendment CTA 2021-01, and to adopt the following text amendment, consistency statement. Zoning text amendment ZTA 2021-01 is reasonable and conforms with the county's adoptive comprehensive plan and is in the public interest.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Brings us to item number 4, zoning map amendment ZMA 2021-04 and public hearing. Again, presented by Shane Prisby. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As part of the new zoning ordinance, the Community Development Department is proposing that all parcels currently zoned as Conservation Estate Lot District, or CDE, be rezoned to the new Unified Conservation District.
All right, thank you, Shane. Gentlemen, you've had this information. Any questions for Shane before I open the public hearing? Seeing and hearing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Do we have anybody here tonight to speak to ZMA 2021-04?
I have no cards, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone in the audience tonight to speak to this matter? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt an ordinance amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to ZMA 2021-04, including Exhibit A, the affected parcel list, and the statement of consistency statement. Proposed rezoning would consolidate all existing conservation districts, including the Conservation Estate Lot District, into one conservation district. This change would remain in compliance with the 2016-2030 Burke County Strategic Land Use Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Mulwee. Those in favor of that motion signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Item 5, zoning map amendment ZMA 2021-05 and public hearing, again presented by Shane Prisby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As part of the new zoning ordinance, the Community Development Department is proposing that all parcels currently zoned as Conservation Estate Lot Conditional District, or CDECD, be rezoned to the new Unified Conservation District.
Thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane on this item? Seeing, hearing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time.
May I ask a question? Is this part of the state park property now as it exists?
I believe, yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Hearing, seeing no other public comment, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-07, amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to CMA 2021-05, including Exhibit A, affected parcels list, and adopt the following consistency statement. The proposed rezoning would consolidate all existing conservation districts, including the Conservation Estate Lot Conditional District, CDE, CD, into one conservation district identified as CON. This change would remain in compliance with the 2016 through 2030 Burke County Strategic Use Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, 5-0. Item number 6, ZMA 2021-06 in public hearing. Jane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As part of the new zoning ordinance, the Community Development Department is proposing that all parcels currently zoned as Conservation Low Density District, or CDL, be rezoned to the new Unified Conservation District. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane on this item? Seeing, hearing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Do we have anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-08, amending the Burke County zoning map, including Exhibit A, the affected parcels list and the related consistency statement. Consistency statement, the proposed rezoning would consolidate all existing conservation districts, including the conservation low density district CD-L into one conservation district CON. This change would remain in compliance with the 2016-2030 Burke County Strategic Land Use Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Morwe. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Brings us to item number 7. Again, zoning map amendment ZMA 2021-07 and public hearing. Shane.
Mr. Chairman, as part of the new zoning ordinance, Community Development Department is proposing that all parcels currently zoned as Conservation Low Density Conditional District, or CDLCD, be rezoned to the new Unified Conservation District.
Thank you, Shane. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. Any questions for Shane before I open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Do we have anybody to speak to this item?
May I ask a question again, please? Is this 3,000 acres and the other 9,000 acres all of the part of what the state park currently owns? Or is this outside of that area in the, back to 126?
There are some parcels that are outside of the state park boundaries as well, but the biggest chunk of it would be the state park.
Your state park maybe?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else speak to this item? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to adopt order number 2021-09, amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to ZMA 2021-07, including Exhibit A, the effective partial list, and the related consistency statement. Consistency statement. The proposed rezoning would consolidate all existing conservation districts, including the conservation lower density conditional districts, which is CD-L-CD, into one conservation district CON. This change would remain in compliance with 2016-2030 Burke County Strategic Land Use Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify.
Question before we vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The motion was to adopt 2021-09 as it relates, but is it ZMA 2021-07 or is it 09?
I have it as 2021-07.
07? Can we modify the motion then to identify 2021-07? In the first line on the motion, it says 2021-09. The second line says 2021-07.
The ordinance number and the ZMA number are not the same.
They're not the same.
They're different numbers
This time?
every time.
Every time?
Okay.
I withdraw everything I just said. It's been a long evening, and let me revamp, let me twist it again, okay?
Okay, that was withdrawn, and we'll take the motion as was presented. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. Thank you. Now for our last public hearing item tonight, the zoning map amendment ZMA 2021-08. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of the new zoning ordinance, the Community Development Department is proposing that all parcels currently in the I-40 overlay district be removed from that district. These parcels will still be regulated by their corresponding general zoning districts.
Thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane before I open the public hearing?
Shane, just want to make a comment and thank all of you for your hard work for putting all the time and effort in this, cleaning this up. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had more questions than pre-agenda. And by the way, for you people who think we don't ask questions, most of them are asked during pre-agenda, so we don't repeat them in our regular meeting. But I asked a lot of questions. I also had the privilege to confer with several people, a couple of them who also go to church with me. And I thought maybe we'd get some resistance to this, Shane, but all of them seem to be happy with it. So I wanted to tell you that. And for you people who want to be a county commissioner, we welcome you. I think your information and all the stuff we had to read and study was better than 600 pages, if I'm not mistaken. So and I did look at each page, I promise you, Shane, but it appears to be received real well. So, and I too will join everybody else. So, I know I stated it pre-agenda when we did this before 15 years ago, Wayne. We thought when we'd completed it, we'd climb Mount Everest. I think your people have just climbed Mount Everest with this one. So you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Abley. And just for clarity, there was 890 pages in this agenda document. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Any want to speak to this item? Seeing, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on this item. Close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt an ordinance amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to ZMA 2021-08, including Exhibit A, the affected parcels list, and the statement of consistency, which reads, the proposed rezoning would rescind the I-40 overlay district after establishing non-residential development standards countywide through the adoption of the 2021 zoning ordinance. This change would maintain compliance with the 2016 through 2030 Burke County Strategic Use Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we've been going for over 2 hours. I'm gonna, well, it looks like maybe I just need to call about a 5-minute recess, okay?
Thank you all.
Thank you for your indulgence. I'll call us back into order, excuse me. At this time, we are at informal public comments, and I'll ask you to try to hold your comments to 3 minutes. And at this time, Madam Clerk, do you have anybody signed up?
I sure do, Mr. Chairman. George Logan.
So now, okay, so I get 3 more minutes added on to the 3 minutes, right? Okay. I just want to first of all say thank you all again for being our county commissioners, and we appreciate you. I wanted to first just say that we're still laboring on behalf of just the removal of the Confederate monument, and I realize that there is a statute that binds you all from doing anything as public officers. However, I would say this to you all. I realize that throughout the course of this country, statutes always and laws have always been challenged, but it didn't seem to be right. And I know that you all have your position. I realize that you can only do what you can do. I want to appeal to you all, just as our commissioners, to the whole county, to just, again, please hear us, understand where we're coming from. I don't know what it's like to be a commissioner, a county commissioner. And I would say, based upon just the obvious here, none of you all know what it's like to be a black man living in America, living in this community. I'm doing something right now that quite possibly my parents' parents, and my parents' parents couldn't do, and that is to stand publicly in a we need you all to champion the cause. If not, just if your hands are bound, you can't do anything, just from the stance of sensitivity toward. It would go a long way just to say, you know what, we do hear you. And quite possibly, if you were in our position, and you think about the horrid past, and really go there. I mean, really, really take a strong look at history. I was a witness to an incident just recently, and the father said, if you were a father, would you not have come in and intervened on behalf of your son? And I said, yes. You know what? I would have. And I truly believe that likewise, if you really put yourselves in our position and you really take a look at history and see, we were just out on the square on the green part of the farmer's market, and we were calling out names of trades between seller and purchaser, and all of the numbers of children that were sold away from their parents, and people who were sold in the latter years of their life, who in many ways the Confederate monument represents much of the oppression that took place at that time. We're just asking that you to step in to our feet and our shoes and really take a strong look and maybe even voice it sometime. Just say, this is my opinion. Though I may not be able to change it, maybe I can do something to move the needle. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Reverend Logan.
Kim Logan.
She's not here.
Kelly Surratt.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this time. My name is Kelly Surratt. I live at 102 Sharon Street, Morganton, North Carolina. I stand before you with great conviction tonight. Born and raised in Morganton, North Carolina, I am in full support of the removal of the Confederate soldier monument that stands on the courthouse lawn. I believe that when we present key issues, it's wise to examine the origin for the purpose of enlightenment and understanding. I believe true accuracy in the assessment of the issue is vital in determining a conclusion. In its Constitution of March 11th, 1861, Confederate leaders explicitly provided for the federal protection of slaveholding. and I quote, "In all such territory, the institution of Negro slavery, as it now exists in the Confederate States, shall be recognized and protected by the Congress and by the territorial government, and its inhabitants of the several Confederate States and territories shall have the right to take to such territory any slaves lawfully held by them in any of the states or territories of the Confederate States," end quote. In February 1861, Raleigh's Weekly Standard newspaper warns that if war comes, quote, "the Negroes will know too, and the war is waged on their account, making them, quote, become restless and difficult to manage. Quote, the whole economic system will break down." William Waitstill Avery was the most prominent advocate of secession in Burke County, an elite slave owner killed at Brown Mountain in 1864. This statement, "the whole economic system will break down," is where I would like to conclude my remarks. Proverbs 20, verse 10 says, "Two things the Lord hates are dishonest scales and dishonest measures." Commissioners, the love of money is the root of all evil. And slavery's very intention was to be an economic superpower at the expense of the free will of the people. God is the author of free will, and any man, when they attempt to strip that from another man, acts as God. Therefore, I submit to you that the Confederate Soldier Monument that sits on the courthouse lawn doesn't respect and honor the dignity that many have been made to believe that it does, but rather an idolatrous altar, which has an undercurrent of dishonor. I am one who takes joy in celebrating those who fight for a just and righteous cause. Many of my family members have and do serve in the military. However, when the fight for oppression of others is at stake, none of us should align with that. I believe that it is imperative to deliberate and make a decision based on the truth. Though for many of you it may be very uncomfortable, please know that it's so important not to ignore it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Surratt.
Reverend Dr. Marshall Jolly.
Good evening. My name is Marshall Jolly, and I live at 301 South King Street here in Morganton. I also serve as rector of Grace Episcopal Church, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission this evening. I'm told I have 3 minutes, which is a tall order for preachers, so I'm going to get right to it. Symbols are important. They help us make sense of who we are, what we value, where we've come from. In a manner of speaking, they interpret us. We adorn our lapels with flags and wear crosses around our necks, and without ever saying a word, we communicate something about our identity and our values. I've paid close attention to the ongoing conversation over the presence of the Confederate battle flags at either end of our county, as well as to the ongoing dispute over what, if anything, to do with the Confederate monument and statue situated on the most prominent plot of ground in this county. I have listened as some have suggested that we must teach our children about the Confederacy so that we do not make those same mistakes again. And I agree with those voices. As a lifelong student of history and occasional teacher of history myself, we must teach future generations about our past, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Every church I know of here in Burke County teaches their children, and in fact all of their members, about the reality of sin and evil. Every week in my congregation we recite the Nicene Creed, which says in part that Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate. Just last week we baptized a new Christian, and we gave thanks that through the waters of baptism he has died to the old life of sin and is reborn into the new life of Jesus Christ. In my estimation, we couldn't call ourselves a church if we weren't committed to teaching those parts of our history and theology as Christians. But so far as I know, there is not a single Christian church in Burke County that has erected a statue of Pontius Pilate or of Satan. And you may say, and you'd be right, of course not, that would be absurd. We don't erect statues to things we don't value or things we don't idealize. Commissioners, in the year of our Lord 2021, we have heard in the past 6 months hundreds of members of our community talk about that Confederate monument and statue on the courthouse square and the Confederate battle flags at either end of our county. Talk about it as a source of pain and racism and a reminder of a past of unspeakable evil and oppression. It's one thing to teach about our past. It's another thing to idolize, and I use that word intentionally, a chapter of our racist, oppressive, and downright evil past. Other county commissions and communities across our state have chosen to act, and I am absolutely convinced that they are no smarter, more skilled at leadership, or more capable than any of us here in Burke County. We are, after all, I am told, all about advancing.
Thank you, Reverend Jolly.
Reverend Dana McKim.
Good evening. I'm Dana McKim. I'm pastor of First United Methodist Church at 200 North King Street. I'm a resident of 102 Woodside Street across from Catawba Meadows Park. And in addition to all my other things, I daily advocate to God on behalf of Scott Mulvey's eternal soul. See you in church, Scott. I keep hearing about we need this statue and we need these flags because these flags in this statue mark important memories that we need to have. I question that, I challenge that, but I've been listening to that. And I've been thinking about how important it is to inform myself and develop knowledge about things. And so I've been doing just that. And recently I've gotten my hands on a list of 634 men, women, and children. Children younger than my 18-year-old daughter that were traded in 178 transactions here in this county over a 60-year period. And I've learned their names. I've begun to learn some of their stories, and it dawned on me, I need to learn all the story, not just part of the story, not just the story told by two Confederate battle standards that guard the entrances to our community and a Confederate watchman that watches over a square 2 blocks from my church and who watched over a square with 250 human beings in it who were mad enough about a pile of granite and metal that they were willing to kill each other. And Sheriff, I know you're behind me back there. You and I both know we were one backfire away from a massacre in our own square. And I still have nightmares about that day and about what I saw and about the intention behind the eyes of people who had their hands on their weapons. So I want to know more about the story. I've been learning more about the story, and in an effort to do that, we've said those names tonight. We read them out loud. So if we're going to pay attention, and if we're going to honor the heritage that exists in those battle standards in that statue, we need to honor all the heritage. We need to honor all the people, including 634 souls who made this county great by breaking their backs to clear land, feed livestock, plant crops, build buildings, and make roads to enjoy what we have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Kim. Could you spend any more time on Moa Week?
Carla Kincaid.
Good evening, everyone. Juneteenth is going to be celebrated this weekend, all around the country. Juneteenth, the first day freedom, I was able to, as we walked in, give somebody some insight on that. Didn't know what it was. So hopefully today, I'm just going to read some important dates that correspond with that, which all ties into the Civil War and to the Confederacy as well. January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, which declares that all persons held as slaves within states that have seceded from the Union are and henceforth will be free. The proclamation makes free enslaved the official end of the American Civil War and allows African Americans to enlist in the Union Army and Navy. The Emancipation Proclamation does not end slavery in the United States, but it sets the stage for the constitutional amendment that will. April 8, 1864, the Senate votes and agrees to add a 13th amendment to the United States Constitution. This 13th amendment will abolish slavery in every state. January 31st, 1865, the House of Representatives votes and agrees to add the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, making slavery illegal in all states. March 3rd, 1865, Congress creates the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands to aid in the transition from slavery to freedom. April 9th, 1865, Confederacy General Robert E. Lee surrenders at the McLean House in the village of Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. There were battles and skirmishes after this date, but it generally considered the official end of the Civil War. June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger arrives in Galveston, Texas with news that the Civil War has ended and all the slaves are free. During the war, Union soldiers could not get past the Confederate troops and enter Texas to tell the slaves about the Emancipation Proclamation. Then when the war was over and the slavery was officially illegal, plantation owners still did not tell their slaves that they were free. As a result, the slaves in Texas did not know they were free until Major General Granger's announcement. This is why this arrival in Texas is known as the day that the last slaves were freed and is celebrated as the first Juneteenth. December 6, 1865, the 13th Amendment is ratified by enough states and added to the Constitution. In today's society, Juneteenth is widely celebrated. It's a day for celebrating African American freedom and achievement. Smithsonian, Henry Ford Museum, and countless other institutions sponsor activities and celebrations for Juneteenth, hoping to educate more people about African American history and culture in general. However, Juneteenth has also morphed into a more national symbolic celebration of respect for all cultures. And this is a book that is written by Angela Johnson, and hopefully that we will be getting more books in our schools in reference to anything that has to do with Civil War, true statements, the truth is light. And this book was dedicated, and I like what it said at the very beginning. It says, for the ones who were never free, this is dedicated to them. And those who forget our past are doomed to repeat it if we don't. And I just hope that that's something that people can take into consideration. And I'm sure that this is something that's going to be going in libraries and something that's ahead for us. Because in 1777, our ancestors were not free. And this is my Juneteenth, and this is my Emancipation Day, not 1777.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyone else here to speak in public comment tonight? All right, hearing none, thank you to each of you who have spoken tonight. We hear you and appreciate your being here and enduring all of our lengthy discussions tonight to make your comments. This brings us to item number 9, consent agenda. Mr. Manager, we'll hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have, I believe it's 10 items on your consent agenda. First one is Western Piedmont COG Area Agency on Aging Home and Community Block Care Grant, FY21-22. Item 2, clerk reappointments, removals to Adult Care and Nursing Home CAC. Item 3, clerk reappointments and removal to Recreation Commission. Item 4, clerk reappointments and appointments to Child Protection Child Fatality Team. Item 5, county manager, appointment of county manager as interim health director. Item 6, community development resolution recognizing compliance with NCGS Chapter 160D. Item 7, finance, FY21-22, general liability / workers' comp insurance renewal. Item 8, JCPC, removals, reappointments, and appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Item 9, Tax Department Tax Collection Report for May 2021. And item 10, Tax Department Release Refund Report for May 2021. That concludes your items for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, you've heard the consent agenda. All those in favor of accepting it as read, please say aye. Opposed? No, you don't like that, do you? We need a motion on that.
Yes, you do.
Do I hear a motion?
I make the motion that we approve all 10 items as rendered.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's all of us, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Item 10, we have 2 items for decision tonight. First item comes from the Health Department, 2020 State of the County Health Report and COVID-19 Review. This will be presented by Lisa Moore, and I guess Ms. McLeod.
So it's just gonna be Lisa Moore.
Got on out of here, didn't she?
I let the boss go home early, so it's left up to me, so. Thank you, commissioners, and we're going to fly through this really quickly since you saved the best for last. So you should all have gotten the copy of the 2020 State of the County Health Report. Just to remind you, this is a supplemental document that we have to do every year in between our community health needs assessments. So our last one was 2019 was our last assessment, so this is our first 2020 State of the County Health Report. This one is a little bit different than the reports that we have done before, since all of our year last year consumed with COVID, not only in our county, but our country and our state. So most of the questions that they were asking was and is pertaining to what happened during that year in regards to Burke County. What did we do? So the questions that were posed to us to answer were, what was the progress on our community health improvement plan? What was morbidity, mortality changes since the last community health needs assessment? What are the emerging issues since the last assessment? And what were any new, paused, or discontinued initiatives since our last assessment? So those are the questions that we answered in that 2020 report that you have. And since the pandemic kind of derailed a lot of what happened, our Burke Wellness Initiative groups did meet virtually all last year to finish our community health improvement plan. It was submitted on time and is a great plan for us moving forward. There will be some changes as we move, because as you see in the report, the state is moving from a paper-based reporting system to a more web-based data collection scorecard moving forward. So those things that we inputted before and used are going to be much different. So we have to take our plan and then move those strategies and interventions to that scorecard data-based intervention and put all those in there and figure out how that's going to work. So that's what we're doing at the moment, is trying to fix how that scorecard is going to be done. And as soon as it is completed and finished, we will let the community know, because they will have access to be able to go in and see in real time what does the progress on our community health improvement plan look like moving forward. So as soon as we get all of that, the new person in my position will let everyone know how that's going to roll out. The question on the information about morbidity and mortality, for information purposes, we have that COVID dashboard that most every citizen in the county should know about, and has been going now for a year and is still current and updated every day. But we had to put a few demographics in here about that. So what you have, the number of cumulative cases was based on the date the report was sent in, but those cumulative numbers and case reports are on that data dashboard and is updated before midnight every day. So those informations is more current. The section of the report discusses emerging issues. There's a couple of issues that came up really glaringly over the last year that we are going to, or moving forward, committees are going to have to, in which Johnny alluded to, the lawsuit settlement that will be coming, hopefully will help steer back into the positive direction we were moving in before COVID hit. One of the alarming issues in the county is the sharp increase in our overdoses and overdose deaths that we've had over the last year. In the first 4 months of this year, we have had over 200 overdoses or overdose deaths in just that 4 months. So instead of where we were making wonderful positive inroads in that area, we are moving backwards. So hopefully, and with fentanyl coming on the scene and causing a lot more of those overdose deaths in response to that. So hopefully the group is going to be able to, since a lot of the problem came in when they stopped in-person counseling and treatment. That was really where we saw a lot of the problem, because people that are in recovery have to have that human interaction, and it's not as good virtually. It doesn't help them move forward in their recovery. So hopefully with now everything moving back to in-person, that is going to show a big positive move. The other thing that we noticed was the increase in mild to severe mental health issues due to being isolated. So those who really didn't have a lot of issues with depression or mild mental health problems, we saw a resurgence of that with that loss of human interaction and that loss of, or that increased in isolation due to restrictions with COVID. So we're hoping a lot of that with the mild to moderate mental health issues will reverse themselves with the easing of restrictions. So that is something else that the group is going to have to look at and maintain and make sure that that changes. The next section talks about pausing or changing of initiatives. So every 3 years when we do our community health needs assessment, we reevaluate those priorities to see what does the community really want to see a change in. So from 16 to 19, those kind of changed. So there were 2 of the 3 initiatives from 2016 that we paused or have stopped for right now, and that was poverty and was mental health. So we're going to pause those, and our focus this time when the priorities are going to be heart disease, stroke, and substance use disorder. Because we have those sharp increases, we had to leave substance use disorder on there. But we have for almost as long as I have been in Burke County teaching, we have had our #1 chronic disease is heart disease. So we really need to, and that's a lot of that is preventable. It's based on nutrition, physical activity, and stopping of smoking. So we're going to really put a lot of work into that to see if we can reduce some of those numbers around heart disease and stroke. So that chronic illness hopefully is going to be looked at. Okay, so the last part of the report just talks about what was positive, if you had anything that was positive. And I just wanted to reiterate what Rebecca said earlier, is that we are rich in this county with agencies and with individuals that really want to step up and help and work together. And I have had the privilege of my 20 years out of my 31-year career in public health here in Burke County. And I can tell you, because I spent 10 years in a different county, that wasn't like that. So this is something that I would hope that you cultivate and you continue richly in this community, is for everybody working together and pull together. We had some new partnerships that we were blessed in coming together with over this last year with COVID. And as you heard with Chastity and feeding the community, we really had, when we noticed there were issues, we could bring those partners together and really work on that. So I really hope that that is something that will continue far after this year of pandemic that we have had. Does anybody have any questions about our report?
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions for Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple. I read with interest both in the report area of our stuff and also in your report, and about the increase in suicide, death. And it gives an explanation, but it kind of breaks your heart, Lisa. It doesn't give you a cause or why. Do y'all have a way to categorize those who commit suicide? And you know, it's something from that side that can be worked, or a program that would change that?
Well, the suicide numbers that you're going to get, we only get from the state, and a lot of those come from death certificate data. So some are very clear about how they committed suicide, and some are very ambiguous. So there is some data about, in particular, drownings and gunshot wounds and personal harm. Then there are some that's very ambiguous. Some of the suicides are actually overdoses that were accidental, but they deemed them as suicidal. So the numbers are there, but the numbers are very difficult to kind of pull apart and see, well, this is exactly where this one came from, and that's exactly where that one came from. You also have to look at suicide has a lot to do with mental health issues. We have a lot of those in this community, and so some of those end up unfortunately being on that end of the spectrum. You know, if they had gotten maybe some mental health counseling ahead of time, may have actually been better of reducing the chances of them having suicidal thoughts or following through with the suicide.
Well, that's one of the reasons my heart breaks so big. I worked on mental health. Jeff's now on that board. But all the work and all the programs that they had, and yet we come up with more people committing suicide. So it just, as it just does, as old my dad would say, it just doesn't make common sense. When you work harder and you do more, you ought to have better results.
Yeah, well, but you're also dealing with an issue with mental health. Is really hard for some to break that barrier. There's a lot of stigma with mental health issues like there is with substance use disorder. There's a lot of resources that fit some groups but not other groups. So there are some resources there, but it's really difficult to make it uniform across the board that it just helps everybody. There were classes that we had done before, which was QPR, question, persuade, and refer. But you have to have the interest in communities groups to be able to want to identify those individuals and go and talk to them about getting and seeking some treatment or some help. And that's difficult for some people to do. It's kind of like talking to somebody about salvation and wanting to lead them to the Lord. It's very difficult for some people to feel comfortable about doing that. So you're going to find that same thing about talking to somebody who has a substance use disorder issue or has a mental health issue. Yes, we need to talk about it, and yes, we need to help them because that is going to reduce those numbers or the potential for those numbers. So yes, that is something that the Burke Wellness Initiative can also take back to look at to see if there's something they can reinstitute to maybe help that. You also have to look at those numbers probably have gone up over the last year because of that, because of COVID and the pandemic and all that happened with that, because there was a lot of, from the state and the feds, there was a lot of fear that was sent out across all kinds of media. And so some of it was founded and some of it was not. So that fear kind of drove a lot of people to do things that they may not have done.
Well, it's the kind of issue and cause and item that kind of tugs at your heart. You know,
Yes,
get up
absolutely.
and do something, stop that.
Absolutely.
And we have to recognize, and I'm doing that here now, is that it's bigger than probably the county board. It probably is a health issue and a mental health issue, and both of those are not controlled by us. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, on the lighter side, I cornered Lisa and also Debbie that just because they were retired, we were going to create a draft ordinance. And if we needed them when they resigned, we'd impose a 6 months at a time draft and keep them till we found the right person. So. Just in fun. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
We sure need to give Lisa a big round of applause for her years of service.
Well, now, I'm not finished yet. I have my COVID report.
Oh, all right.
I got my COVID report. Let's get that finished, and then you can do whatever you need to. All right, so this is going to be some snippets for what happened over the last year, just to give you a year in review. So on March the 17th, 2020 was the first media briefing that was distributed in this county. Health Department had already tested 24 individuals, and all were negative with that continual daily testing. On March the 17th, we opened the Emergency Operations Center to unify the efforts throughout the county to help maximize what resources we did have and disseminate information. A public information line was open and manned Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with a number for North Carolina public information for questions after hours, weekends, and holidays. On March of 2020, Burke County declared a state of emergency. Burke County's first case was on March the 22nd of 2020. Burke County stands right now at cumulative cases as 10,352, with the largest peak being right after Christmas and right after New Year's between 2020 and 2021. Burke County's first reported death due to COVID was April the 4th of 2020. Burke County now stands right now as cumulative deaths at 169 COVID-associated or related deaths, and we will be reporting 170 tomorrow. Burke County developed a COVID website and a COVID case dashboard with various data points for the community to stay informed. Since March 17th, Burke County has disseminated over 350 media briefings for local media outlets, Joint Information Committee, local agencies, and was posted on social media and COVID web pages. We have regularly pushed out guidance and state mandates to every business or group affected by the information set forth, so all would be up to date with current restrictions and or guidance. We use the numerous avenues to post and disseminate critical information to keep everyone as updated as possible when we move through the pandemic. Though the public information line, the Chamber of Commerce with businesses, we sent out to agencies for posting on their respective social media platforms and websites, along with regular media outlets. With COVID monies, we were able to pay for advertisements through radio and print media. We had targeted digital messaging for people within the county, and we partnered with the hospital to provide messaging on our Greenway transportation buses. Health Department staff also fielded complaints about any business, restaurants, churches, laundromats, doctor's offices, individuals walking along the street that were perceived to be not complying with state or local mandates, and we followed up on every complaint lodged in the Health Department, and I can tell you that because I did every one of those complaints. During this pandemic, Burke County saw a sharp rise in the cases among Latino communities, so we convened a group of Spanish-speaking leaders within the community to determine how best to get that information out to that population. We all worked together to develop instructional videos in their own dialects, which in this county is 4, and they disseminated the videos through their own social media network to begin to slow the spread within that segment of the population. During the vaccination process, we worked to help get the historically marginalized groups within Burke County set up with vaccination appointments. We worked with those with Spanish-speaking leaders, the deaf and hard of hearing population, our Asian community, and worked with a representative from Carolina's healthcare system, Blue Ridge, to secure all appointments for those in the African American population within our county seeking vaccination. During this pandemic year, lots of things changed in Burke County, the state, and the world. The reduction of human interaction is probably the biggest toll that was taken during this pandemic. Burke County's life was put on hold for a time, and people had to alter their normal behavior. How they interacted with their family and friends, how they functioned within their business if they actually got to go to work, how they shopped for necessities for their family, and how they were able to worship, and the altering of participating in normal activities like going to the movies and going out to eat. For most people, human interaction is a huge need, and to completely stop and isolate people cause many to have feelings of depression and increase their mental health issues. Over the last year, we have seen a sharp increase in those mental health issues, along with overdose rates and deaths, along with issues along with recovery. Burke County saw a stress and strain on its healthcare workforce, long-term care staff, along with long-term care residents. This toll is just now being alleviated to some degree with the slowing and downturn of COVID cases, and along with the easing of restrictions and having visitors within those establishments. The most positive attribute to Burke County was the implementation of the virtual hospital that Carolina's healthcare system, Blue Ridge, developed. The hospital was instrumental in keeping so many people that were sick with COVID out of the hospital and providing constant monitoring and support to those patients in their home setting. This was able to keep hospital beds and staff designated for those who were sicker individuals that required more hospital intensive help and medications, and did not allow the hospital to get overwhelmed and not be able to perform routine hospital services to those individuals that were in need. The hospital will continue, and the use of that virtual hospital will change and not have a COVID focus. We are actually going to use that with our heart disease and stroke group, and we're going to monitor those individuals and hopefully lessen those heart disease and stroke measures. As we reflect on the past year, one of the other most important facts to take note of was the collaboration that was required to deal with the pandemic. We all work together, businesses, churches, nonprofits, governmental agencies, etc., work collaboratively to address basic needs within the county for those hardest hit, providing basic necessities and support for its healthcare workers on the front lines, administering vaccine, disseminating information and changes as they happened. It truly took the village to help the village survive this past year. So moving forward, everyone still needs to understand that the 3 W's of prevention and the vaccine are only tools we have in our toolbox to attack this virus. We will have to learn to live our normal lives with this virus because it is not going away. The vaccine is given for 3 main reasons: to prevent severe illness in people, reduce hospitalizations for those who take the vaccine, and reduce the number of COVID deaths related to and associated. We are going to have to learn how to get along with this vaccine and how long it will last. That is going to be subject to change as we move forward with all of the testing. We probably will have to end up getting a booster at some point in time, and how long that's going to be, they're not exactly sure, but it'll probably end up being kind of like the flu. We will end up either having a series of 1 shot or 2 shots every year for this, just like we do for flu. So some takeaways that you need to remember, and maybe we should probably learn how to do, is we might learn that we don't always stand really close to people anymore to have conversations and interactions. Maybe we meet in smaller groups and not instead of having large gatherings. Maybe we do more things outside rather than being cooped up inside. Maybe not touching others as often as we did. Making sure we continue to wash our hands often and not touch our face with unwashed hands. And maybe one of the most important factors that we continue to preach is to stay at home when you are sick with anything and not be around others for any reason, not parties, not funerals, not events, not anything. Stay at home until you are well and then go around people. Amen. So, since this is the last time I'm going to be addressing you, I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you. I have enjoyed the ride. It has been wonderful. Last year has been terrible, but we have persevered. We have come through it, and whoever you get to take my place will do a wonderful job. Everybody can be replaced, and that's what I tell them at the office. You just have to train them in how you want them to be. So I will come back, and I will help whoever replaces me do whatever I need to do to have a smooth transition. But I have just thoroughly enjoyed my 20 years here at Burke County of my 31 years of public service. And I want to thank you so much for allowing me to have the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Lisa, and I know I speak for this board. We can't thank you enough for the service that you've provided. It is a team effort. It's nobody does this kind of work alone, and Rebecca told us that earlier, and we know you've been a big part of the team, and we just want to, again, thank you for what you've done. Any questions to Lisa? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept the 2020 State of the County Health Report and COVID-19 Review as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So everybody, Madam Clerk. All right, item number 2, appointment to the Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. This will be presented by our clerk, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees is a 12-member board. 4 members are appointed by the county. Seat number 1 is occupied by Lamar Smitherman, whose term ends June 30th, 2021. Mr. Smitherman is seeking reappointment, and an application was also received from James Huffman. The suggested motion is to appoint someone to fill that seat to the Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees, seat number 1, for a 4-year term ending June 30th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, you've heard this information and that we have 2 applicants for this seat. I would, at this time, entertain a motion or entertain What am I looking for, Madam
I'll
Clerk?
nominate Lamar Smithman, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Don't know why I'm confused at this point, but
You're as confused as I was.
we have a nomination of Lamar Smithman. Do I hear any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to make a nomination, but I was kind of halfway praying coming to the meeting that somebody else would make this motion. I know both these gentlemen, and both are very qualified and good people. So it was, and I like both of them. So it's a hard decision, so I'm glad somebody else made the motion.
Right. We had a motion for Lamar Smithman. Any other motions? Hearing none, I'll close the motion and take a vote. All those in favor of Lamar Smithman to fill this seat for Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. All right, item 11, reports and comments. I'll open the floor for reports and comments at this time, and we'll start down there with Attorney Simpson.
I'll be brief.
Thank you.
We have completed the Hoff draft, the draft of the Hoff Development Agreement for signature by the county, and that has been signed. We have drafted an offer to purchase and contract for certain property the county is interested in acquiring and beginning the title search concerning that. We have reviewed the new zoning ordinance prepared by Community Development. We have reviewed the proposed deed and conservation easement and survey for the Jonas Ridge Bog property. That should be signed by the end of this month. We have researched the historical no-wake law in Burke County from 1963 and have met with Wildlife Resources Commission in a telephone conference regarding that. I've advised the Sheriff's Office concerning an execution sale that has been completed, or complicated rather, by the bankruptcy of the defendant. It still isn't completed. I've researched the issue of livestock at large and responsibility for dealing with that. Reviewed the rabies control memorandum of understanding between the health department and the county, and have assisted community development concerning certain trailheads and easements. Thank you.
Thank you, J.R.
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Chairman, in addition to what you received in your commissioner's package, there was not an MTAC meeting, so you will not have that report in your package. Also, I accepted the invitation and then attended the announcement of the Board of Education and their choice of the new superintendent. And in reading everybody else's stuff on our package, noticed that Blue Ridge Chemicals, and that was on page 484, has been closed, that it's, they found chemicals on it, cost over $1 million to dispose. And my surprise to that is that we were not apprised of that. And I would like to get a full report on that. It appears that after the death of the senior owner and after the death of his son in a house fire, it was vacant for, I'm going to say, close to 10 years or so. So that's probably from where it comes. But the report that's in your material said that the family was going to lose the farm because they could not afford to pay for the chemical removal. So I'd just like a little more information on that if we could have it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair? Mr. Carson?
No comment.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to thank Commissioner Taylor's daughter for baking us a homemade scratch made cake for tonight's festivities.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I don't have anything to report other than let me say thank you for your attention and endurance tonight. It's been a lengthy meeting, and I appreciate that. I will remind you to spay and neuter your pets. Consider fostering or adopting an animal from the Animal Services Center. Don't litter. We continue to see lots of litter around. Please help us communicate with folks about littering and picking up litter. At this time, we'll hear a vacancy announcements. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county government: Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, the Animal Advisory Board, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, Recreation Commission, Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team, East Burke Senior Center Advisory Board, and the Board of Health.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Lots of opportunities in our county for volunteering your time, so please consider that. If you have time as a citizen to give to any of these boards and commissions, we would certainly appreciate your help. Gentlemen, we have no need for a closed session tonight, and with all that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. We stand adjourned.